welcome to the Tips and Bricks podcast, where we discuss all things Lego and share some of the community's best tips about those bricks that we all love. My name is Evan, my pronouns are he and him, and I'm one of the hosts of today's podcasts. Today, I am joined by Clay. Clay, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good today, bright and early over here.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do any building this weekend, but I did some packing, which I don't know if that's good or bad. My Lego room looks better than it did on Friday, but there are fewer Lego sets on display, so it's a
All right, well,
bittersweet weekend over here.
you handled Lego,
There
no
we go.
building.
And as things fall off, you get to build and play with them a little bit, even when you're packing stuff up too.
That's fun. I did build Lego. I built this little gizmo guy up
Oh,
here. Made me
nice.
very happy today. You can see him.
You
Oh,
burnt
whoa,
through
my
that
camera is
one.
like moving automatically. Do you see that?
Yeah, you're fancy.
I don't know how it's never done that before. That's really scary. So if you're on YouTube right now and watching this, you're here with me on that. But every week we are joined by a very special Lego guest from the Lego community, and me and Clay are up early today because our special guest is from Denmark, which if you are listening to this podcast, you probably know what that means, but if not, we'll introduce him anyway. And so you may know Aaron Newman. He's an incredible mock builder. He has some incredible mocks like the Demogorgon and the Terminator statues, or his Lost Boys hideout. That's my favorite of yours. You may know Aaron Newman from his appearances on the first season of LEGO Masters, and also the third season of LEGO Masters Celebrity Holiday Bricktacular. That is a very long show title. Or you may know Aaron Newman as a senior model designer for the LEGO Group, where he's worked for the last 4 years, sometime
Yes.
around then, designing sets such as the Interstellar Spaceship, the Creator 3-in-1 Medieval Dragon, and Happy Plans. So, Aaron, there's a lot of things to know you for. So, welcome to the podcast. We're so
Thank-
honored to have you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it is wild how many different ways I've interfaced with the Lego hobby over these many years. But you're right. I actually had my 4-year anniversary at the Lego group just like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So
Wow.
good timing on that one.
Congratulations. That's so cool. Well, actually, on the note of you saying that you've had so many different hats, per se, in the
Yeah.
LEGO community, something that we ask every guest when they first come on, just to get to know them a little bit better. LEGO hobby, for you, maybe more than just a hobby, but it can mean many things from showing at conventions to building a set with a friend to even being a designer. So, when you think about your experience with LEGO, we'd love to know what is your favorite part of the LEGO hobby slash experience.
It's evolved over time because it used to be that I was using Lego as a medium for role play, when I was a kid, building Lego Star Wars spaceships, modding, like the original Jango Fett starship, for instance, and swooshing that around and shooting spring-loaded cannons at my brothers. Then, of course, came more of a interfacing with the lore of Lego, actually. I was a big Bionicle nerd, and so I was huge into that universe and those sets. Um, then, of course, came really starting to build creatively in a more um, meaningful way or a more dedicated way. And that was what eventually led me to, say, being on Lego Masters or being at the Lego Group was this creative building passion that I had and have had ever since. I do a lot of that at work these days, which is the coolest job in the world. But then I still enjoy Lego as a hobby now. And most of what that'll entail it's not as much building mocks at home because I like to save my creative juices for the office where I can, put it towards models that'll make it out into the world. I really love to sit and build a set. Last weekend, I just did the really awesome Temple Bounty from this summer, the Ninjago, the latest Destiny's Bounty set, which is
Hmm.
so well done. A friend of mine, Marcus, was the main designer on that one, and he always does amazing work. So it was a joy to get to build that and sit with a movie or a reality TV show or something and that was really fun. So these days it's a lot of building, collecting, unbuilding, putting back in the garage, take another set out, that kind of thing. Try not to spend all my money on new sets if I can help it.
That's so awesome, though. I love that you still have the love for what is really the foundation of the hobby.
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
think that like as soon as it becomes work, and we've talked about this on the podcast too, not for us so much like the building aspect, but like as part of Tips and Bricks and like doing the blog, there's also an element
Mm,
of work to it. And so like
sure.
how that kind of changes like maybe a little bit like your perspective of the hobby, but at its core, like we all just like to play and build, you know?
Yeah,
And that's just so cool. Um,
absolutely.
I saw that on your I was doing a little deep dive through your Instagram, so
Sure.
apologies for stalking you, but
It's
you
okay. I'm
you
glad you did research.
and so you posted something like back a few years ago of your like a little bit about yourself basically, and you said one of your favorite shows just because you brought up reality TV. Are you watching this season of RuPaul's Drag Race UK?
You know, I'm actually not up to date. What happened was
Oh,
for the people in the audience who know and love RuPaul's Drag Race, if you remember this season, All Stars, All Winners, that was
Hmm.
just unbelievable. That was the
hmm.
last one I watched, and I think it's because I just was like
Wow.
the level was so high. It's hard to come back. Lately, my
Yeah.
wife and I have been obsessed with Survivor, though, which we never
Oh,
really were on the
Oh.
bandwagon when it was coming out. I mean, it's still coming out, right? But we've gone
hmm
back and we're in like the old seasons of Survivor. We're obsessed with the traders as well. I cannot wait for that to come back in the
ooh,
US. And in the meantime, we're satisfying the craving by watching the UK celebrity season. They're not
hmm
doing a very good job. The celebrities are not good at catching traders this season, but still love reality TV and
yeah,
love
you're a big reality TV
Oh,
guy.
right.
love it. Love it. Yeah, it's the best.
So was
Dancing
Lego
with the
Masters?
Stars. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
all of
Was
it.
Lego Masters then like the perfect culmination for you? Like, were you like, wait, there's gonna be a reality TV show about like my favorite hobby? Like,
Yeah, it is kind of funny. That one, it felt less like it did feel like a perfect opportunity for me when I applied, and was also sought out for the show. Because if, they were doing a lot of reaching out to people in the fan community who, they wanted to get people who really knew their stuff on the show. So there
mm,
was simultaneously people applying and people scouting folks and casting whatever, and I sort of had a two-sided approach where I both applied and was approached, so that was great. But at the time it felt like the perfect opportunity because I actually was at the time shortly out of college, and I had studied theater in school actually, so that was kind of a weird, before then unheard of collision between my favorite hobby and the thing that I went to school for, which I'm not doing anymore because the Lego thing has just completely my life is moving in that direction, which I've chosen for myself. But it was crazy because I was like show business and Lego, what?
oh
And
yeah.
so it felt like a perfect fit, and I think on the show it also equipped me to, I hope, entertain people and put on a good show for all the viewers at home.
Mm,
So yeah, yeah. The reality TV thing has really deepened over time, though. So I wouldn't say it was
hmm
necessarily forefront of my mind at the time, but now I'd be like, oh my God, reality TV.
So
So,
you'll be the
that's
first
so cool.
Lego Masters contestant to go on the Traders, is what we're hearing.
oh,
That
I
would be
mean, if we could start
so cool.
advocating for that now, I'd
Right.
be okay with that. Yeah, that'd be
The
fine.
campaign begins
I
today.
don't think I'd be very good at the show, though. I'm so gullible. But I would love to go to the castle and meet Alan and all that stuff. So
Hey,
yeah,
being a gullible faithful is a good spot to be. You get
it's
really
true.
close to that money, and
It's true.
some
It's true.
seasons you win doing nothing except hanging
Yeah,
out.
it's a fair point.
Well, because of your experience, actually, if you're a listener, our very last segment is going to be Aaron's going to do a cabaret for us, and so stay tuned.
Ah, get out of here.
That'd be really fun, though. Though, actually, we are going to move to our first segment. Clay, you're going to take it over. We're going to do a little tip segment.
All right. So we're going to dive into the heart of our tips and bricks content, which of course is all about Lego tips and goes back to like our mission of just making everyone a better builder. And in this segment, we discuss Lego tips for a specific topic that's within the specialty of our guest, which for you, Aaron, was kind of hard to pick from the many talents because there's all sorts of range of sets that you build. But one thing that we as a team really love is your Creator 3-in-1 sets. I even have your beautiful horseback here, which has been one of the sets that survived into display mode after I reviewed it.
Wow.
Some kind of go to the mock bucket afterward, but this one
I
has been
honor
out in
thee.
display. But we also seen, like, in addition to the way you sculpt animals, which is incredible with those creator sets, the recent Iron Man statue was just announced, which everyone has been blown away by. And in the past, we've highlighted like different sorts of individual builds on the blog with giant figures or animals, but we haven't really had a post where we give foundational tips around sculpting those brick built figures.
Hmm.
So since you're here, we thought this is the best time to kind of initiate the topic. So
Sure,
can you
sure.
talk us through a little bit of your process for how you approach those sculptural builds?
Yeah, you're right to point out this is something of a hyperfixation of my career lately, and it's something that I'm more and more being asked to do, which is so amazing. So it's really not that different in a way to craft an animal for Creator 3-in-1 and to work on something like the Iron Man because both are entailing the same foundational sculptural techniques. So, uh, top line view. A few things that I could say. One is I think it's really important to make sure if you're building a character or an animal that the face, the head is right where you want it to be first, because when we relate to, animals, pets, animals at the zoo, as well as other people, right? Um, the first thing you really are tuned into is the eyes, the expression. And so if you can't get that quite right, the rest of the build probably isn't going to work. So when we're designing animals in, say, Creator 3-in-1, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start by figuring out a design for the head, something that feels plausible. In the case of the horse, that head design was in its core, not really that different from the first iteration that we did all the way through the production version. I mean, the colors changed, a few things got optimized, but the baseline stuff is that version that we finally were like, this is a horse that we feel like is plausible. And so from that, it's going to determine so much else about the rest of the build. In
Hmm.
a pure, anatomical sense, the head is a really important thing to know the size of to figure out the proportions of the rest of the build, right?
Hmm.
And in Creator or a lot of these animal builds, we might be shooting for iconicness, sometimes a little bit over authenticity. So in the case of, say, the Panda set that I worked on a few
Hmm.
years ago now, the head on that is quite large compared to the scale of the animal, but the icon of Panda and the cuteness and the expressiveness we wanted to make, it kind of dictated maybe having a bit of a bigger head than was, strictly anatomically
Mm.
correct. But you still want to make it feel like the right scale. And for something like a human
Yeah.
figure, that you're shooting for that accuracy, that level of realism, that authenticity to the IP, the scale
Hmm.
does become very important. And I remember so clearly working on the Iron Man, taking the head build and being like, this is about 6 modules. Okay, how tall am I? How long should the wingspan be?
Mm.
That kind of thing, to figure out the actual proportionate version of the
Hmm.
thing. So that's important, both for the expression and for the proportion. I also tend to work outside in, not just from the head, but also say doing the limbs before I
Hmm.
do the body, usually,
Oh.
because oftentimes, using the horse again as an example, it has such thin legs, and to
Yeah.
get the engineering on those right, it's like it would be easier to build the leg alone and figure out a solid engineering than to start with a body and work your way down here, right? Because if you set the
Mm.
scale or set the joints in the body first, then the leg you might hypothetically run into issues that are constraints put on you by the body you've made.
Hmm.
Versus, I find it's easier going the other direction, which is start with the leg, the legs, the head, the maybe the neck, the tail, right? And then the body can usually be a bit more forgiving, just in a Lego building sense.
Yeah.
You need to marry so many things up in there, but it's also not really usually a focal point of these models.
Mm.
Unless you have something really iconic there. I mean, if you look at Iron Man, the arc reactor is super
Mm.
important,
Yeah.
right? And the sculpt on that is also, I'm working in that model, it's more of an 18 plus expectation versus, say, a 9 plus playable display model like the horse, whereas the Iron Man really is a pure display model for adult collectors.
Hmm.
So there's different audiences, but largely, working on an animal, the body is more tying things together
Yeah.
oftentimes than having to meet these specific expectations around
Hmm.
the appearance. So that's another tip I guess I would share is to usually go outside in.
Hmm.
Work on the smaller, more fiddly bits first, once you know your
Yeah.
scale, and then you can marry it all together in a satisfying way, sort of towards the end.
Hmm.
I also tend to look at the joints of what I'm working on,
Mm.
trying to match anatomy to some extent as well, right? Like if in the case of Iron Man, right? In the neck, you have a little ball joint, like a mixel ball joint,
Hmm.
basically down here in the base of the neck, which, not strictly speaking, accurate for humans. We don't have a little plastic ball here, but the range of motion of the head, you can turn side to side, yes, but you can also look up and down. You can tilt it.
Mm. Yeah.
Having a joint with that degree of freedom allows for more authenticity, more lively posing.
Mm,
But using a joint with more movement isn't always the best solution. In the neck, it would make sense. But meanwhile, in the like in the middle of the torso, having a joint with less posability is actually really beneficial
Hmm.
for the model, because it's able to twist at the waist, sort of like this. And with that in mind, you can mask fully to the joint on either side because it only turns in one direction,
mm,
which aesthetically is really important, while also maintaining that stability, and the coverage is really important for the torso of the figure. But also, if the model had elbow joints, which it doesn't, but little thing to know, you can switch out the Technic connectors that make the elbow angle very easily. So with the replacement of one or two pieces, which
oh,
many
really?
people in the audience likely will have in their own connection collections, you can
Hmm.
change the arm position a little bit, but we're not including those in
Wow.
the set. But all that to say, if the elbow moved, the movement would need to, probably anatomically, would make more sense for it to basically be able to do this
Hmm.
motion
Yeah.
Mm.
rather than a full ball jointed
Yeah.
No, yeah,
there,
no
because
one's elbow is going there.
suddenly the elbow is moving in ways that it naturally can't. So again, even if it's not exactly the way the two bones meet the other bone here, it's matching the kind of movement that's possible in nature. So making the animals and making humans, any kind of creature, the way the joint moves actually goes a long way to selling the authenticity and the organic feeling, the life that you can bring to it as well.
Hmm.
So I guess those are some baseline things about sculpting and about organic building.
Yeah.
The other
And
last thing, I guess, one more thing I could say about the Iron Man in particular is that that particular model, in every place possible, more or less, we have a studs out
mm,
sort of
hmm.
core. Obviously, snot techniques are really good for locking things, making them stronger in a smaller way, but also it gives you a more uniform surface to decorate on in a way. So I oftentimes tend to prefer to use a studs out approach, because you can align textures a lot more easily using parts in the
Hmm.
same families, while also getting that locking that allows you to make something really strong in a compact way.
Wow, that was so thorough. I'm so
Yeah.
impressed.
There's
We've
so
had a
much
lot
to
of time to
think
think
about.
about this here on the creator team, and also just at the Lego group in general. We do these kinds of builds often, so
Mhm.
I like to think this is not anything revolutionary, but maybe it's nice to hear it all in one place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you have any favorite joints? I know you talked about the importance of them for certain builds, but are there parts that, like, if you could go to this one part that I always want to use for a joint, do you have any like that?
Yeah, one that we use increasingly, which I think is the most useful piece, is if you look at the shoulder of the horse, maybe you can actually tear the leg off the horse and we can see that joint together. There's a joint that was debuted by the Ninjago team. Yeah, that white one on the leg itself. That piece there is using the
Oh.
old Galador click system, but it marries it up into a brick at the other side, which makes it really
Mm.
easy to incorporate, to mask smoothly. You get the strength of the Galador joint while also being able to build it in a more compact way than ever before. So that joint in particular is incredibly useful, and we use it a lot in Creator for animals and stuff like that. Pretty recent element, but it opened up, the possibility of doing the horse, the fox, the rhino. So many of our animals now are using that joint. Um,
I had
It's
no
such a
idea that was a
hack.
Galador part originally. That's so cool to learn.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's originally from Galador. I first
Yeah.
encountered those pieces with Knights
Hmm.
Kingdom 2, the action figures,
Hmm.
that kind of
Mhm.
connection system. But I'm pretty sure it debuted in Galador. And we
How
use it
cool.
still. Yeah.
That is so cool. Wow. Well, it's so compact too. I think that's what's so convenient about it.
Exactly. Usually, you want a joint to be as simultaneously strong and small as possible because if the joint itself, like this is another reason for the Iron Man using the actually the Galador joint here in the shoulder. Um, it's a joint that's maybe a little bit small for the scale of the figure, but because it's so small, you can mask around it much more easily and then get again that polished look. Rather than if I was going to have the expectation that Iron Man could do a handstand. I would need a much stronger shoulder joint, but that would also then have aesthetic implications that would be much harder to work with.
With Iron Man, I'm sure also because that one's not a 3-in-1, each part that you put on there, is staying there. With a 3-in-1, is there anything different with how you tackle these sculptures, especially
Oh
like the
yeah,
alternative models?
yeah. The biggest constraint that we face in 3-in-1, that's a unique constraint for models that have a rebuilding aspect, is that in a normal experience, a Lego experience, usually you're taking the bags, bag one, then you build bag two, then you
Mm-hmm.
build bag three, etc. And for a creator set in the main model, that's the case, where you'll build things in a staged way. But if you're going to be tackling, in the horse's case, either the bear or the deer, you're going to have all those pieces on the table at the same time. So you
Mm,
have to look at, we have kind of internal guidelines around how to make sure that people have a good building experience. You don't necessarily want to give them a 1x2 bow and a 1x2 bow with a cut corner in the same bag
mm,
because those pieces are easy to confuse. So, in a bag by bag sense, in a model, you're dealing with that kind of specificity when it comes to which pieces are going to be on the table. But when you do a 3-in-1 model, you have to look at the entire thing as if it's one big bag, kind of, and reduce that complexity where possible. So that's a specific constraint where the rebuild adds a new layer of challenge that I can think of, aside from designing 3 sets in the time that some people design 1 set, you know?
Well, that's so interesting too, especially because I think of your 3-in-1 models as even when you look at the broader Lego portfolio, some of the more detailed, intricate like sets. So that's actually really interesting that you have to think of them as like less complex at times.
You have to think of the part selection as less
The part
complex. You have to get
selection.
very specific, yeah. But the models themselves, you hope you're delivering a good experience on
Hmm.
any one of those 3 building journeys that the consumer can or the fan can interface with.
Wow.
Awesome. These are really good tips. Even just something like you said, kind of outside in is a great starting point for many people. And then, I mean, I always say too, like just buy some of these sets and even just go through the instructions digitally. Like these
Yeah,
are good ways to get more comfortable with whether it's joint creation, just sculpting best practices.
yeah.
So I think those are always good tips as learn from the Lego master. But
And well, I'm also always still learning, and this is one of the reasons I love building Lego sets in my free time because it's
Hmm.
not like I'm bringing my work home with me, but my work
mhm.
brain sometimes does fire off. I'm like, ooh, that's really cool. They're doing that this way. Like, I haven't actually built this one, but I'm desperate to build the Peely Bone set because the techniques
Ooh.
for
Oh my
sculpting that
God.
thing are crazy. Or
It's
like I
so
did the
crazy.
again, I'm a big Ninjago fan. I did the Guardian Dragon recently, and the way the
Oh,
body
that's
has
Mm,
this such an organic
mhm.
curve to it while being so sturdy. It's like it's pretty cool. So you can really learn stuff by building some of these sculptural builds. While like I said, we're doing a lot of this in Creator, but many people around the building are using or around my building, I should say, are using techniques that are sort of similar to each other to achieve similar results. Another really good one, if you're looking at building characters and a major help to designing the Iron Man in terms of the techniques that it established was the C3PO. The recent
mm,
C3PO
Mhm,
statue is
mhm.
incredibly well done. Colleague of mine, Jackson, colleague and friend, did that one. And yeah, the techniques there, laid the groundwork in a lot of ways for what we've been able to accomplish on Iron Man in terms of getting this compactness and the sturdiness and the organic shaping.
mm. That is such a good idea. Just to honestly, if you want to create a model at a similar scale and proportion, you can honestly take the internals of an
Yeah,
existing Lego set and just kind of reskin
and
it
reskin it
almost.
100%. I think it's the hardest thing to do on these character designs is the pose because that really is like the structure kind of. And if you decide to pick up the Iron Man when it comes out in January, you will see all the weird, complicated stuff that goes on to make that pose possible. But that's the hard part in a way. How you
Mhm.
skin it is the fun part. And if you want to ever take a C3PO or Chewbacca, K2SO, Iron Man, use it as the core to build something yourself, it maybe is more approachable.
Or Gizmo, if you want a little
Gizmo
short,
too. Yeah, yeah,
little big
yeah.
guy.
Yeah, that's another amazing model. It's just
Actually,
unbelievably good.
there is a really good technique in here of the way that they use Technic pins to just like angle out the arms, and it's very,
Oh.
I don't want to say it's simple. It is complex, but
But
like
you
the
want it to
solution's
feel
very
intuitive.
simple. Yes, it
Yeah,
does. As soon as like you click it in, you're like this, I literally just clicked in these Technic pins at an angle, but everything was straight up until you click it in, which is
yeah.
so interesting. And yeah.
It's that model, as I'm sure you know, it's a Chris McVeigh, same guy who did the Tuxedo Cat, and
Mm,
his builds are always so clean, just like
so mean.
immaculate. Like you walk into that house and it's spotless. That's the energy of the builds that he works on, which I love to experience those.
No, I was actually, it's so true. I was very impressed because this is one of those models where you can turn it. I think it's the only one that I have because I have Stitch. I'm trying to think because a lot of these models, like you can see underneath them, like
Mhm.
more
Yeah,
internals
yeah.
or at least see
Two
like some
sides
technique.
or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
You cannot see anything on Gizmo.
No,
Gizmo is
Wow.
like from every single angle, like is covered with just
It's
fur
completely
texture.
crazy. It's such a good set. Yeah. So good taste.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I love the movie too.
Great sculpting, Evan. All right. Well, thank y'all. This was a great discussion. Hopefully, we've given some good tips and ideas for people, kind of where to start, or really no matter where they are in their sculpting. You gave tips for all levels of progress. So, thank you for all this feedback and ideas. And I think it's time for our game segment next, Evan.
Yes, I'm very happy I asked you about that 3-in-1. That's going to be very helpful for me and Clay right now. So our game of this
Ooh.
week, it's going to be Plastic Shark Tank. So in this game, Clay and I, we have separately prepared our own set ideas that we're going to pitch to Aaron, who will then provide his feedback on what he likes about the set, what he would change, and
Mm.
ultimately, after hearing both ideas, he's going to choose one set as the winner to proceed with. So this time, we're playing the game with a catch. The set ideas, they have to be part of Lego's Creator 3-in-1 portfolio line. So Clay and I,
Mm.
our ideas are not just one idea, they are kind of three different objects, animals, things we will see, but they have to fit within one single concise product. And so we have 1 minute to pitch our 3-in-1 ideas to Aaron, the brilliant mind behind several Creator 3-in-1 sets that are currently on shelves now. This was not our idea. This was the team's idea. They threw us
Right.
to the wolves here, and
Exactly.
I had a, me personally, like I came up with like, it is so hard to come up with 3-in-1 product, by the way. Like I
Yeah.
really, within the last like week of ruminating on this, like I had two really solid, but I was like, what will the third be? What will the third thing be? And then I
Yep.
completely diverged because I couldn't think of the third thing for that. So
Right.
it's, yeah, I'm kind of excited. How are you feeling, Clay?
I mean, I'm the same. I'm like, I had a ton or two ideas. I'm like, got them. And then thinking of where those parts could shift into a third is the roadblock I kept running into.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I have all the respect for y'all who put out actual products on the market because even just trying to find like a common thread, I mean, even within
Yes.
the animals, I was gonna say animals still, because of the color scheme, like there still has to be a common thread within that. It's not just as simple as like, here's three mammals I can throw together. So,
Well,
yeah, I
not
was
necessarily.
challenged.
I was looking through Aaron's portfolio as inspiration, and I love your medieval dragon because one of your alternative models does like a
Mm,
complete color swap, and I was like, that is so
mhm.
cool. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
I was really happy about getting to make that happen. It took a lot of reworking the innards of the dragon to get all the little bits of red and gold I needed later. Yeah,
That is so impressive. Just like the fact that you have to, well, because you were just talking about like the internal structure, how that can like come later for the body. But then like now in this case, you have to be like, wait, I have to include these parts inside of it too. Like that's such a
yeah,
puzzle.
yeah, crazy.
Well, Clay, are you ready to pitch your set idea to Aaron?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm
Okay.
ready. Am I going first?
Yeah, you're gonna go first. I'm throwing you to the wolves.
Oh,
So
good.
I might not even go. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, so your 1 minute timer, I'm gonna start it right. Are you ready?
Ready.
I'm gonna start it right now.
All right, the idea is Lego baked goods. With our main model, we have a beautiful three-tiered cake. It doesn't have frosting around the side because that would be too boring. So it just has like some colorful frosting between the layers, some beautiful icing and decoration on top. You can, of course, disassemble this cake and make it a tray of cookies that each have their own individual colorful frosting decorations. Of course, still using some of the same. I'm gonna say probably medium nougat for the cake would be the ideal color of this, though with baked product, you kind of have a range. And then once we're done with the cake and the cookies, you can turn this into a fruit pie, which again will have this nice circular crust, but uses some of the colorful icing and frosting to be, I'm envisioning like maybe strawberries, blueberries inside that brown crust of color.
10
Time.
seconds. 10 seconds.
So come on down to the bake sale and get your baked goods with Lego. Is that an
Nice.
effective use of 10 seconds? Cool.
I think it was good. I think that was great, actually. Aaron, what do you think?
I love the idea. I think it's very cool how you're already thinking about how to make use of the different colors in your concept in clear ways. And something else I think is really strong about this idea is that all three silhouettes are slightly different, right? You've got a big,
Hmm.
tall cake, let's say. You've got a rounder, big disc for the fruit tart, and then the cupcakes, of course, are much smaller, but there's many of them. So I think this is a strong start. You're working also within a really clear passion point for the consumer. If someone loves baking or baked goods, they're going to pick this up and they'll get an awesome baking related build every time. So I think
Mhm.
it's a really cool start. And
Mhm.
Evan, you're a bit under the gun here to come up with something else super
Yeah,
cool.
as soon as you said baked goods, I was like, "Oh my God, that's genius!" I'm really impressed with this
I
idea.
was I started locking in on food pretty soon because we just had the
Mm,
ideas announcement about how there's going to be a ramen set, which is
Mm,
one of
yeah.
the first like kind of real life sized foods that I can think of. And so I one of my first ideas, Evan, was New York City, like street foods, but I was like, Evan lives in New York City, so I'm not even gonna try to throw this out in front of him because he'll just interrupt me. Be like, that's not accurate. That's not
I
accurate.
mean, they have every type of food here,
That's
so
fair.
if
But
you
yeah,
could do
I'm
apple
curious.
pizza, I don't know.
Oh, okay. No,
I don't
that
know.
won't be a Lego set.
I like your idea better.
Have you ever been to Denmark?
Yes,
I haven't, but Evan has.
Okay, I'm not sure if you would have tried this, but in Denmark they have something they call salad pizza.
yes.
It,
Unfortunately, I think that's so weird. I'm sorry.
as an American, I've never been able to get it, but when we have pizza as a team and our Danish project manager gets the Danish pizza, all the Danes love it. So there's something there I might be missing, but salad pizza,
Is
it
it like
is something it's like imagine
a
a pizza,
crust with salad?
a
Yes.
crust with like, and then on top it's like salad and salad dressing. But by salad I mean usually it's like romaine lettuce.
Yeah, it's
I
literally
don't,
just it's like a plus. It's not like a
yeah, I don't quite get
merge.
it.
It's this plus this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you know it's quite a hit here in Denmark. So that's one. I don't know if it's made it to New York City yet, but that's one of those
No,
foods that
that is.
maybe
You
no.
know what? Actually, I'm such a liar. The other day, actually, I did go to a pizza shop. This was like a month ago, and they had a Caesar salad pizza. And that one I
Okay.
was a little bit more okay with because I don't know why. Maybe because it was just like more toppings and like the cheese was kind
But
of like mixed
still,
in. I didn't try it.
no.
The
That didn't
Danish
win me over.
invasion, you know,
Well,
that sure it's so strong.
Aaron, I have to know, what if you were gonna turn Clay's set into a product, like just off of the top of your mind, like what would you change? What would be something that you would maybe work on
Mhm.
a little bit?
Um, I don't know. It's such a strong idea. I feel like I would probably be looking at like what else can go with the cake to make the scene a bit
Mm,
more full, right? And also to give you
Mm.
maybe some interesting pieces to use for your three-in-one concept.
Oh,
If you look at the horse,
utensils.
again, it's behind you, so I keep thinking about it, but most articulated animals have some kind of a like a side build, and sometimes that gives you place
mm,
to incorporate elements that might be useful in the B or C model. Like in the horse, you can obviously tell the pieces of dead grass become parts of the antlers of the deer later.
Hmm.
So
mm.
that might be a next level of thinking if you're going to take this idea forward. Is
Whoa.
what side builds or what accessories might make the scene even more
Mhm.
vibrant, but also give you things to work with on the cupcakes and the fruit tart.
Side
Smart.
builds. That is very smart. Yeah, I don't know if I got
I
quite
was
as
gonna
far as
say, are
side
you
builds as my
taking
idea.
notes, Evan? Because
I
you're
am. I'm
asking for
changing my
advice
idea
before you
right now.
present your idea, I
But I
noticed.
know I was talking about salad pizza, but I don't want to give Evan any more time to prepare because that's
Oh
not
God.
fair.
Okay,
You
so
ready, Evan, for real?
yeah, without further ado, I will give my pitch. It's stayed the same. I haven't changed it within this 1 minute. That would be really daring of me. Okay, my minute starts now. So my concept for a 3-in-1 is I looked at the creator line as a whole and I was like, what is kind of missing here? And I was thinking that something that you can actually hang on your wall is something that would be really interesting to kind of like maybe have a little bit of a more like elevated sense of like decor. Because a lot of it's very like cutesy and fun and sculptural and cool, but what's a wall piece? So the three ideas I have is one, a piece of artwork with a frame around it. And so I was thinking this could be maybe a Starry Night type scene, maybe a Monet's Water Lilies type scene, something with like greenery and something very organic. Because the second thing that you can turn it into is a planter box that you hang on the wall with like leaves and like maybe a couple flowers coming out of it that were in the internals of the painting. Who knows? And then the third thing is going to be a floating shelf, and on it, I kind of want like tchotchkes. You know, like when people just like have those like little cute little like tchotchkes on. So I was thinking, you know, those wooden frog instruments with like the ridges, and you have like the little like stick going over it. So kind
I
of,
have
oh,
one. Yeah.
that was a very fast minute.
Okay,
But
so
my
you didn't
minute
get
is
to
up.
fully finish your idea, but I think I got the gist of it
You got the
in that
gist of it.
minute.
Yeah.
Really cool idea. I like the red thread here of things that you can hang on the wall. That's very,
Hmm.
very cool. And we see, a lot of the time our creator sets are used as part of playful displays for kids and adults. So it totally is in line with the kind of thing we would do.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it's a fun idea for sure. I feel though like the the art and the botanical side of it, maybe you're looking at a product that's in
Mm.
sort of the wrong theme right now. Just
Oh.
a
Mm.
little bit, just a little bit. But we could make that happen. I'm sure there's ways to zhuzh it up and make it more creator DNA as well.
More whimsical, I was thinking. Like
Yeah.
the creator theme 3-in-1 DNA is very whimsy. There's a lot of
Mhm.
just like there's like a cutesy element to it often,
Yeah, well,
especially with like the
we
roller
are
skates or
designing products for kids, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
no, of
At
course.
the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's great that we welcome so many adults into the hobby with the models we make that are interesting to people of all ages. But we are definitely targeting the kids first. So something that is so purely display oriented,
Mm,
also maybe not the perfect fit for creator
this is true.
quite as much. Versus the cake, I can easily imagine you could like take a slice
Hmm.
out, play
Ooh, take a
tea party
slice
or
out.
whatever. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of things that hang is really
Uh-huh.
cool and provocative, and there's definitely ways. I mean, you see this in Ninjago too with the climber mech. That's a hanging set, which I know from
Mm,
the designer Lee that was really engineering specific to figure out, and a cool challenge, but definitely a good idea to bring that kind of thinking to other parts of the
Mhm.
portfolio.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's super. That's a very fair point. I when I was thinking of this, it was like kind of a bit of a stray. That is very
Mhm.
fair from like the rest of the line, but I was
Mhm.
trying to think of like what's something that's they've never done, which I think you've done a
Yeah.
great job, Clay, of doing something that they've never done,
Hasn't been done. Yeah.
but also definitely fits within the framework of Creator 3-in-1.
I love your idea though of like coming over to your house and then coming over 2 months later and like could have sworn there used to be a picture hanging here. Like where'd you get this little frog instrument from? Like having to rebuild it but also hang it in the exact same spot on your wall
Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that would actually be really good. So if like the two positions on where you hang it on all three models stayed the same. So if you took it off the wall
Oh.
where it would be, you could just hang it right back on those
That would
same
be a really
nails.
good thing to do. I think that would mean fewer holes in the wall at the end of the day, and that's
Hmm.
probably good for people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just a wall with tons of holes all over it from every time you've rebuilt it.
All right.
Okay, now Aaron, you have the decision to make. Which one are you gonna now make as next
Oh.
year's premiere? Creator 3-in-1
Well,
set.
I now that these ideas have been on the podcast, I don't know if I can take either one of them.
No, we'll
But
write
We
up
give up
our,
rights.
yeah, we give up
Sign it
rights.
away.
the I think for me the more natural fit with the Creator 3-in-1 play proposal is Clay's idea. So good job, Clay. It's colorful, it's cool, it's got that level of staying in the same passion point, but having that change in silhouette and scale and uh, staying really focused on that passion that gets someone interested in the box to begin with, right? This is also why most of the time we do animals, they rebuild as animals.
Mhm.
People who love
Hmm.
animals want more animals.
Yeah.
People who want, if you look at the Horse Knight's castle that we launched recently, right? That rebuilds as more castles
Mhm.
because
Hmm.
you picked this up because you love castle. Versus if it rebuilt into, I don't know, a skyscraper or something, it could
Hmm.
probably be done with the pieces that are there, but it wouldn't be quite the right fit
Hmm.
for making a cohesive product. So I think Clay, you did a really good job of staying within that theme. And also good job, good designing, thinking about where we have holes in the portfolio and what maybe could be a unique offering that keeps that franchise DNA, but remixes it in a cool new way.
But that was amazing.
It was awesome.
As soon as you said baking, I was like, wow.
You
Like
were done.
my mind
Yeah.
really was like, that was really good.
But Evan, I have to also commend you for thinking outside the box and
Hmm.
coming up with a really cool interactivity to your Shark Tank model. I think if you your plastic Shark Tank, I think if you get a designer from the Botanicals theme on the call,
Hmm.
maybe you pitch it to them and see what they think. I think it'd be a really cool fit over there.
Oh, that'd be a cool little collab. Creator 3-in-1 botanical.
Mm.
That actually would
That
work
was
pretty
weird. There
well.
kind of has, there's been a lot of botanical influence in some of the Creator 3-in-1s this year. Even the
Oh, that's
typewriter with
true.
flowers and the watering can. So it's always kind of cool to see those brick built flowers also show up outside of botanicals alone.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Aaron. This was very, very fun to
What's
pitch the ideas. And I also just like really appreciated your perspective too on like what could actually be reworked with these to make them into real products. It just felt very natural in that way. And yeah, thank you. This was
Of
great.
course.
And so now we're gonna go into our final segment, our question of the week.
All right, and I am hosting the question of the week, where every episode we have some burning question about Lego that we'll all take some time to answer together. And today, of course, we're basing that around you, Aaron, who you've
Mm.
talked a little bit about your journey with us already. And of course, it's very easy to find many interviews and all the things that you've shared of your story out there. But you, of course, have come at Lego from so many different ways, from building mocks to being on Lego Masters and now being a Lego designer. So, can you tell us, any element of that story that you'd like to share? I know you've talked about it some with us already today. Kind of like what was the point in your life when you're like, I want to be a Lego designer and this is how I'm going to get there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, technically, I guess I've wanted to be a Lego designer pretty much ever since I realized that was a job you could do. Which I think is true for a lot of us who love Lego. You know, you want to be so close to the brand and be able to contribute to the legacy of the amazing stuff that has come out of the company so far. Um, and to be, in the place where all these awesome creative ideas get their inception, and where you collaborate with so many gifted colleagues, and it's a really thrilling environment to work in. So I was drawn to the idea of that very early in my life. But as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't always on that path in terms of really executing it in my life. I actually went to college for theater, which is a passion of mine that I found, around the age of, let's say, 12 or 13, maybe. And then I did that all the way through college, in a more structured way. But as I was taking stock of my life and myself creatively towards the end of my education, I really was feeling a certain level of misalignment internally with this path that I'd been on for a while, that I felt like I've worked really hard for this, and I know that it's kind of an uncertain life to be in show business, as
Hmm.
many of us might know. It's really a um you have to be willing to sacrifice everything to your art and your craft because say if I was studying to be an actor, and if you're an actor you are probably trying to always stay in fighting shape, voice lessons, dance lessons, acting lessons. You probably can't work a really secure job because you have to be ready to drop everything if you book a gig, if you're even lucky enough to book a gig, let alone get an audition. So it was a life where I felt like I was not. First of all, I wouldn't really be in control of my life going forward in the way I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And having recently found a partner who now has become my wife, I was like, I don't know if that, lifestyle is going to be compatible with all the dreams I have for my relationship. Furthermore, and I think even more importantly, because you can always make these things work, I realized that I really enjoyed the outcomes of this creative endeavor. I loved being in a show, a community of people. I loved getting to perform. I loved the craft, but what I didn't love was the process. Being
Mm.
in those acting classes and those dance classes and those voice lessons and struggling to memorize lines quickly for an audition if you got an audition, and the actual rhythm, the day-to-day of being an actor and the process of getting from point A to the result, that process wasn't something I loved. So I did a bit of a reassessment about my creative core, and I came to realize that, hold on a second, there is this thing where I literally live for the process creatively, which is building with Lego, right? I
Mm.
love getting to share the sets I've worked on, or previously the mocks I worked on. I love getting to go to conventions. I love, getting to build Lego sets, watch Lego content, whatever. But the thing that really anchors me in this hobby and that I cannot get enough of is actually being in that flow state of creating something.
Mhm.
So it's much more sustainable creatively to actually enjoy the process, and the fruits will come if they come, and if
Mhm.
not, you still enjoy the process. That was a
Yeah.
big thing for me to reorient my life. So when I left college, that's when I started really pursuing more of like a full-time Lego thing, which at first
Mhm.
was I was teaching classes using Lego bricks to kids, using Lego as like a way to teach them about STEAM concepts, actually, and also starting to grow a commissions business, which then was, fortunately really became much more high profile and successful in the wake of Lego Masters and all the exposure that gave for me and my brand. Um, and then I was doing that full time for 2 years, which let me build up my portfolio to the level it probably needed to be at for me to apply for and get the job that I have now. So I really look at it as like I found the answer for what I wanted to do within myself, and the whatever you want to call it, fate, the universe, some kind of force out there helped, because of my like passion and my commitment to this thing, opportunities, when you commit so fully to something, oftentimes opportunities will present themselves and you will find, a path that makes you happy. So that's kind of, what brought me around to doing what I do now in a really top line view. But it really has just been this like you know, the maturation of a childhood dream,
Mhm.
and the dedication, putting in those, let's say, 10,000 hours of building with Lego over the last 30 years, right? But
Mhm.
also pursuing it with mindfulness has led
Mhm.
me to being where I am now, I think.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing all that with us and what you said about the process too. Like that it's so easy to lose what we love about something so
Yeah.
often when it becomes more than just a hobby, or it's a hobby that grows so big, or in your case, of course, it becomes a job.
Yeah.
So just really remembering like is what at the heart of what we want,
Yeah.
and then also thinking about your daily life and the process that you wanted to seek at work. I really liked that part of your message, especially.
Yeah.
Um,
Thanks.
and this kind of builds into our big Lego question of the week, which is how do you build like a Lego designer? So I know, Evan, that
Mm.
I'm going to throw this one to you actually, who is not a Lego designer, of course.
I can't answer
But I was going to
that.
say you also have mocked, I feel like, a ton since you've joined the Tips and Bricks team and have displayed at conventions now. So like in your mind from where you are, how
Mm.
do you build kind of like a Lego designer, Evan?
Oh, that's so interesting. As someone that's only made like maybe like three physical mocks, like, that's
Yeah.
a hard question to answer. But honestly, actually, something maybe to throw it back to something I said earlier is to like take earlier models that you've built and see how you can maybe not so much like reskin them, but like use those same sensibilities in your work. And so I'm thinking about like the most recent mock I made, which was at this point like months ago. But for the Brickworld convention, the Wizard of Oz mock, I started that based off of really liking the foundation of the Nightmare Before Christmas set. And I was like, I really like how this is like three separate sections that click together at just like the slight angle it gives you just makes the whole scene more dynamic. And even though I didn't click it together in that way, I just liked that overall landscape look. And so I think taking the things that you like about a model, and we even heard earlier that Aaron said that he will do that himself as a Lego designer when he builds, is be like, oh wow, this is really great. The inspiration never stops, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think that to be inspired, I'm sure Aaron's not just been inspired by Lego sets too, probably also by mocks that you've seen. And so I think a way to build like a designer in general is just to really take in all the inspiration that you see around you. And not just in Lego, mind you, like inspiration can literally come from anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, I was also super inspired for this Wizard of Oz set, and even like someone even called it out. I was really excited that someone on my Instagram noticed like exactly the inspiration for one of the parts of it was from a Polly Pocket like Wizard of Oz
Mm.
set from like years ago. I was like really trying
Wow.
to figure out how I wanted the witch's castle to be because you only see like one shot of it and it's like kind of like dull, and I was like, but I want this to be vibrant and still like kitty and fit within like the design aesthetic of this. And so then I looked to the Polly Pocket version of it and I was like, oh wait, I can do not exactly this, but something that is like in like the vein of this color scheme, and this color scheme and like this general shaping still reads as a witch's castle, but it's not super literal. And so I think Aaron also touched on that earlier, is knowing when to hit like the literal and when to hit more of, like the essence of something. And
Mhm.
yeah, that would be my answer.
Love it. And I mean, the inspiration piece is so good. But like you said too, it's not just like only scrolling Instagram or only going to a convention, but even just like being inspired by colors in the world. I
Mhm.
know I'm sure many of us see Lego, like even when you're sitting and watching reality TV, I'm constantly like, oh, this tribal council set, I can like envision the 1x4 log profile that
100%.
would be
It's like a
perfect
blessing
to
and a
build
curse
this
to be able to
from.
see things in Lego. It's like Lego vision. Like I'm sure a lot
Exactly.
of us have that. It's just, oh, it's crazy. Sometimes you're like, that's exactly that shape, that piece. Oh, it's crazy. You know.
No,
The
truly, I was at the gym, like, this was a while ago, but I remember sending this to the chat being like, oh my God, this guy's shoes are totally the new reddish orange. And I was like, that was a little too much.
That's so funny.
Aaron,
yeah.
I'm wondering actually, because with you specifically, looking through your Instagram page, I was kind of like taken aback for a moment because I think a lot of people that make Lego, their Instagram is like their mocks. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty standard. That's like how you
Yeah.
share your art with the world. But there's
Right.
something about your Instagram feed that reads more like an actual portfolio to be like future
Mm.
applied to position, especially because you would make like actual themes and like sets, and even the
Mm.
way you would render it, where you would have like the brick separator there, it was very much an official Lego
Yeah,
promotional
yeah, yeah.
image. And
I think I
so
know which one you're talking about there. Before joining the Lego group, I had a passion project between commission gigs where I've always been fascinated by the way that Lego designers build, not just people
mhm,
building Lego, but Lego set designers. Why do sets look this way? What choices are they making and why? It's always been so interesting to me. And coming here and getting to live in that world has been incredible to learn more about all of that. But those were part of a collection of sort of quote unquote sets that I designed in this exercise because I really loved and love building things in sort of like a place scale set
mhm,
way of thinking rather than just doing, not every model needs to be an Iron Man statue where it's about the level of detail and the fidelity and whatever. Sometimes there's something really beautiful and cool about making a set, or quote unquote set, a mock, in my case back then, that is sort of emulating this Lego set style. Um,
Mhm.
and that was something I was doing because I was like, this is what I do for fun. On top of all the commission work I'm doing, I still got to do a little something for myself at the time. So this was sort of a last hurrah to that fan Lego set design style thing that I did end up using some of those creations when I interviewed actually, and I was like, the dragon,
Really?
this dragon has a play feature, and I hope they liked that because now I'm here. Um, it's really interesting to think about like what makes Lego set design different than mocking, and there's
Mhm.
so many things. I think the biggest thing, at least in the business, the part that I'm in, I work on products for kids. And a lot of AFOLs are building for themselves and for their community because that's the
Mm.
audience that we usually expect on, say, Instagram or social media, or also the kinds of builds that are satisfying to us, right? Something usually ends up more like an icons kind of energy in that way, where it's adult fans building for adult fans. But
Mhm.
something I find so compelling about working in the kids business is that as a designer, you have to be empathetically in the perspective of the person you're designing for. And that's
Mhm.
something that really separates a lot of the work that we do at the Lego group from, say, just mocking. Is like you're thinking, what kind of kid is this for? How are they going to play with it? What is the level of difficulty that they can tolerate at this age? Or
Mm.
what is the aesthetic that they're looking for that will work with things in their room? I mean, it comes down to being really in the mind of the person you're designing for and trying to be really meeting their needs, right? Or in the case of creators, sometimes meeting the needs of the gift giver, right? If I'm going to go and buy a Lego set for a kid who maybe I haven't seen in a few years, I don't really know much about what they like. I might buy a creator set because it presents amazing value and also gives something that's
Mm.
super iconic and classic and decodable, right?
Mm.
So you're thinking about that layer of things as a designer differently when you're designing a Lego set versus a mock. And then, of course, there's also just so many more constraints on a Lego model in terms of not just things like stability and the legality of the building techniques, which, of course, are very important here
Hmm.
at Lego, but sometimes fans can do more creative and out there ways of using the pieces, which
Hmm.
is also super cool to see. But things like what price are you trying to hit, and
Mm.
how much time you have to work on it. There's so many different constraints around a model. Which new molds are coming or new colors, which can you use? Um, the other thing that I think has been the most different about building as a fan versus building as a Lego designer is how much time you spend with a model. Because
Mm.
Hmm.
back when I was a mocking, I would build a model within a way that I was like, this looks cool. I feel good about it. Share it. Done.
Mhm.
With a Lego set, you're going to be looping and re-looping and iterating and reiterating for a very long time on the same model to get it just as good as you possibly can. And that level of like depth and re-examination and having the model in front of different people and getting their inputs and making another version, another draft, refining, 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 that process makes more like a Lego design mentality. It creates a different aesthetic. It creates a different experience for the designer, but also for the person interfacing with the model, I think.
I would say too, that's probably a thing that any Lego builder could do differently. And I'm sure
Yeah.
there's many of us who we
Yes.
talk about collaboration a lot and like working with others. But especially when we kind of get locked into our own mock, I imagine most of us aren't often sharing it for feedback, like
Yeah.
bouncing it off others for ideas until we feel like it's ready to be seen.
Yeah.
So even just that kind of team approach where you're sharing it at all stages and people are giving you feedback, I'm sure it's just like a little tip that most builders could implement as building more like a
100%.
Lego designer, if you will.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of courage to be willing to put your build out there at all. But then
Yeah.
of course to put it out to people when you feel like it's not done, for instance, you have to have you have to curate a group of people around yourself whose feedback and input you trust and who you know aren't going to think less of you or something like that.
Hmm.
Which can also be daunting.
Mhm.
So I would encourage, if you're interested in building more like a set designer, having that team approach is really important. But it's just as important to know how to offer feedback, right? In a way where you're not going to
Mm.
crush somebody's dreams and you're going to
Hmm.
make it so empirical, that it's going to be less about their skill level and more about here's something about the design that maybe have you considered looking at this a different way? Or I have an idea, you may not like it, you may not need to take it, but this is something I noticed, right? It's about how
Mm-hmm.
you interface with people just as much as it's about the
Mm,
willingness of the person to put it out there. If you get given the opportunity to give feedback, it's also important to give it the right way.
Hmm.
And if you're someone who loves the hobby and you do it by yourself, that's many people I know
Yeah.
who maybe aren't always going to conventions or don't build a network of Lego fans around them. That's also totally valid and cool. And then I think if you want to build more like a Lego set designer, it is about loop and reloop, right? That's something you can do. You can
mm,
self-spar and say, this is cool, but
Hmm.
how can it be better? This
mm.
is great, but could I make it even get to that next level? And going back into the bones of something is so awesome and interesting, I think. So that's also an exercise you can do if you haven't built that community around yourself or you don't feel comfortable, sharing your work.
Right, because it's such a balance too, because you need to be able to really rework something without one overworking and two like kind of knowing like when something is finished. That is
Mm,
often very difficult, especially when you are in the process of reworking something. As
yeah,
someone that comes from architecture school, I think that like critique is such like a big part of that whole like career path, really.
yeah,
And so it is interesting to see like then from like the Lego side of things, which actually kind of has a similar trajectory in terms of like building, I guess.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if you knew. But
We have a lot of architects in the building,
oh
actually.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But being able to like what you said, like not just give critique, but also know how to implement critique and in a way that is not just like thoughtful for the build, but also thoughtful for yourself. And so you are not overthinking like your own process, and also at a place where you're not like criticizing every single thing you create,
Yep,
just
yep, yep, yep.
beyond your work, just in life in
Right.
general.
Totally, totally. And I think it's such a there's this really interesting inflection point that happens actually with a lot of kids because most kids will draw when they're younger, right?
Mm,
Pretty much all kids will draw when they're younger. But at some point, a lot of kids will say, I can't draw
mm,
because they tend to think I'm doing this thing with my pen or my paper or whatever, and it's not looking like what I imagine it should look like. And there's sort of this break between um, your eye and your ability, if that makes sense. Like you can recognize what maybe the three-dimensional shape you want to draw looks like, but you don't yet have the ability to make it happen because you haven't practiced the skills. You may not even have the fine motor skills to make it happen. There's a lot of reasons. It's actually really interesting, why
mm,
people stop believing that they're creative. But
mm,
I think there's something there around like you're bringing up, Evan, being too hard on yourself can also be really detrimental. And I think if you're building with Lego creatively and you're listening to this, you should already be so proud of yourself because you are expressing
mhm,
yourself creatively, even if it's just modding a set, even if it's just changing the dots tiles on your bracelet. That is creation. That is using the medium as it's designed to be used. So you should be proud of yourself for that. Um,
mm,
but try not to get discouraged, if you aren't able to make things just the way you want them yet. More time, more exposure to builds from sets or mocks or online instructions. There's so many ways to learn more techniques and experience different ways of building. And I know for a fact, I mean, I look back on it's such an interesting experience because I don't know if you saw this in your deep dive, Evan, but years ago, before Lego Masters, I think even I did a model of a Iron Man Mark III in it was like a 10 or 12-inch
I was
scale.
gonna ask about this
And
actually.
I look at that model now, and it kind of makes me cringe a little bit because I know so many
Oh.
different ways it could have been better now. But I'm proud of myself that I put it out at the time, and it's a
Hmm.
really cool like a road mileage marker for
Hmm.
Hmm.
how several years more of work and time and focusing in on this has produced a different result. So, I think it's easy for people to look at mockers you aspire or Lego set designers and say they have something I just don't have. The thing that they have is probably just more time working with the bricks, to be honest. You know what I mean? It's not like we have some superpower here or people whose work you admire have this superpower. It's just taking the time and taking the energy to trust yourself to do the work and to put that time
Hmm.
in to become more of an expert.
Hmm. Also,
Yeah.
you have a giraffe too on your feed. I noticed
Yeah, yeah,
an
yeah,
early
yeah. That's
giraffe.
true. That's true. Very different scale. Again,
Yeah,
and the other
that
giraffe,
one's a
but
bit different. That was a little
yeah,
bit more of
yeah.
a
But
loose connection. But I was like, hey, wait,
it's
he
true.
has a
It's
giraffe.
true. Some things are just fundamental. You come back to them over and over again.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah. I think that's the other thing is right. If you want to build like a Lego set designer, I mean, we are it's something we love, but it is still a job and it takes putting in the time. So
Hmm.
that's another thing I guess I would say is if you want to improve your building skills, and not everyone even wants to build creatively, there's so many ways to
Mhm.
enjoy the hobby. I
Yeah.
myself,
Mhm.
as a reminder, I don't build creatively for my hobby anymore. I
Hmm.
just like to follow someone else's building journey and relax into it like a jigsaw puzzle. There's so many ways to enjoy the hobby. So if you're building
Mhm.
creatively, and I think a lot of people who follow Tips and Bricks really appreciate that level of granularity, I think yeah, just keep doing it, and you'll be amazed how more time will just yield more
Hmm.
comfort with the medium.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome tips and great stories. But yeah, I think just doing it more is probably like the number one. Just kind of there, what you were saying at the end is
Mhm.
like, we're not going to all clock in. And I mean, we'd love to build from 9 to 5. I'm sure many of us would, but just doing it regularly.
Yeah.
And even if that's 5 minutes a day or a half hour a week, just like making sure that you dedicate time to not just reading the post and being inspired, but also putting that inspiration into practice.
I feel
Sure.
like also giving yourself a prompt, maybe even giving yourself like a
Mm.
theme to work off
Yeah.
of, like
Yeah.
which is something that you did, like you gave yourself like a theme that you then had to, no, well, I guess you didn't have to, but you decided that you would make a couple sets around,
Right.
which
Right.
it's really cool, like because I feel that when you put yourself in that mindset then you just start like thinking differently, like this the creative juices just like work differently. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
maybe that's not for you, but maybe it is for you,
Mhm.
And so
Yeah,
just
for sure.
different ways of oftentimes, sometimes not too much constraint, but some level of constraint, especially when you think of like
Mhm.
how does a Lego designer have to have constraint? Like maybe challenge yourself to make a build more stable throughout the entire process. Maybe
Yeah.
challenge yourself for, like I said before, a theme or something like that.
Mhm.
Constraints encourage
Yeah.
creativity for sure.
Hmm.
As soon as you're in a box and you have to get out of the box, you're going to figure out something, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we have for our question of the week. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Evan, to take us home.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for today's episode of the Tips and Bricks podcast. Thank you both for being with us today. Aaron, seriously, thank you for taking the time to come on here. We really, really appreciate it. And usually we ask if you have any thoughts or projects that you want to discuss with us, but I'm pretty sure as a Lego designer, you can't tell us anything. So,
I can't say too much about the future, that's for sure. But I really do hope that you pick up a Lego set that you enjoy sometime in the near future and enjoy it and put yourself maybe in the mind of the person who had to work on it and think about what challenges they might have faced.
mm,
'Cause it's a really cool thought exercise, whether you're a Lego set designer or not.
yeah, I love that.
I
And
also want to say, while we're talking about that, that I greatly appreciate you filling out Brickset. So
oh,
some of y'all who listen probably know, but if you go to Brickset, you can find designers, and some designers will like list what they've worked on and put notes about it. So I love that when I go to Brickset, I can see a set by you and like just see a little story or a little mention of something that you liked about it. So
Well,
I'm sure it takes time, but please keep doing it just because we love and appreciate it.
yeah, we do love that.
for sure. There's so many amazing designers who don't even bother, and I think it has less to do with the fact that they don't care about the fans. It has more to do with the fact that
Oh, yeah, of
they may
course.
not may not even really want or need the attention,
Hmm.
so to speak. They're like, I do this for
Hmm.
the kids. That's enough for
Yeah.
me. But of
Hmm.
course, being deeply rooted in the fan community, I love to get to say what I worked on. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. And for us, we would just really love to see you pitch a RuPaul's Drag Race set in the future. We would really love that. So just throw that out there
With
while we have you
butterflies in
on.
it,
it's an
especially.
idea. It's an idea.
It's an idea. So, can you please tell the audience where they can find you?
Yeah, you can mostly find me on Instagram. It's at Aaron Brick Designer. And As Evan mentioned, I don't update it very regularly, but usually if I do, it's because a new set has come out or is
Mhm.
coming out these days. Although sometimes there's also fun content about, like design seminar or who knows what else, sets I'm building and enjoying.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you. And to our listeners, be sure to tune in to our next episode. Until then, you can continue the conversation with us at Tips and Bricks on Instagram and YouTube and Spotify. And you can also join us on Patreon, where the link can be found in the podcast description. And if you did enjoy today's episode, we would also love for you to rate, review, like, subscribe, all the
All the
things on
things.
your favorite podcast app. Leaving us a review, it just helps listeners like you find us. And so, yeah, until next time, I am Evan with Clay and Aaron signing off. Happy building.